Check, check. Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Check, 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 check. Check, check one, check two. Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Check one, 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 one. Check one, check two. Check three, 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 four. Hello. Give me one moment here. I'm trying to add everyone else in here as well.
How's it going, Melina?
Hey, brother Kwame, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Sorry for the late start. Had a little bit of technical difficulties trying to get this zoomed out so everybody can watch this. But I'm glad to have you on here. Good morning. I know it's like what you like 2 hours behind out there in California, right?
Yeah, we're out here. It's 11:30 something here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. We had two powerful women speakers that joined us here yesterday, Jill Stein and Claudia De La Cruz. So having another powerful woman of the movement on here today, I think this speaks a lot about the strength of women of this generation coming up and stepping up to the plate and being a part of this liberation movement. I want to start with there because I feel like for a long time in this country, men had this patriarchal view that women couldn't even do stuff like this, couldn't be presidents, couldn't be vice presidents and stuff. I had my patriarchal hangups when I was purging myself from my own social conditioning by this system. But that's one of the things that I never was socially conditioned by. It just seemed like the most irrational thing in the world. Is like why women can't be great leaders too. Like I never understood that. I want you to speak a little bit to that, and then we'll talk about what we was talking about electoral politics and how this is being related to building revolutionary movements at this point in this country's history.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me, and I'm glad that you're uplifting the legacy of women's leadership, and I'll say personally, Black women's leadership in particular, that we know that patriarchy is actually a white supremacist practice, right?
Right,
That if we understand leadership and organizing and the way that power structures have always worked, what's indigenous to African religions, African spaces, pre-colonial Africa, prior to, the insertion of colonialism, African women, Black women have always been at the forefront of leadership. In fact, there's one of my wonderful sister mentors in scholarship, Nadav, writes extensively on the role of women in maintaining societies in pre-colonial Africa. So we got to remember that, and we got to remember that we carried that with us here
mm,
to this country. So, if we think about women like Harriet Tubman, the most successful freedom fighter against chattel slavery in the history of this country, nobody said, or one person said her ex-husband, right? But very few people said, no, I'm not following Mama Harriet because she's a woman, right? Hold on a second. I got kids around here. Sorry, it's Sunday and kids are home, so they're knocking on doors. Um,
you're fine.
And so, it's really important to understand that history and understand that legacy. And that's true for Black people globally. If we think about Queen Annie of the Maroons, if we think about
Right.
all of the work that Black women have done and Black men understanding that we should be partners in the struggle to topple white supremacy and oppression. That's been part of who we are. And in her book, Women, Race, and Class, Angela Davis points out that it was part of white supremacy that actually got gender roles shifted away from, our practices as Black people to kind of try to start mimicking the gender roles of white supremacy. And so that's not true to who we are. That's not true to who we are in terms of revolutionaries either, that we have to be engaged collectively. And you turned sideways for some reason, Brother Kwame. That was, yeah, now you're
Yeah, they told me to turn sideways. So I was just following instructions.
well, now
I
you
think they was trying to get it where on the computer screen it widens it all the way out. The fact that I'm doing this on the phone because we couldn't get this computer screen up and running. So I like it just like this. We'll edit it later, I guess.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So anyway, that's my response to the role of women. And if we're real revolutionaries, we assert that we proactively reject misogyny and
Right.
patriarchy
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
understand that for us to move forward revolution, all of us have to be engaged in that practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Black liberation is all hands on deck. I even look back to one of my favorite liberators, and that's Queen Nzinga. You know what I mean? Like, no one
Right.
can look at her legacy and say this woman wasn't a genius, a strategist, politically astute enough to trick, the European colonizers that was trying to manipulate her, and she have to play along with the game. To me, for men to still have that mind state, it really speaks to like the lack of political education. Because sometimes I be thinking like 500 years from now, what is that generation gonna be thinking about people that still have these type of views today? It's just like when we look back at some of the things in history, like the witch hunts and all that stuff, we be like, well, how could people even ever believe like that? You know what I mean? But in this day and time, it's your responsibility, it's our responsibility to get rid of some of these views of our oppressor. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it really is a reflection of. It's a reflection of, like you said, white supremacy, colonialism, and us internalizing that and projecting that back on our own community. I want to speak a little bit about how does this time in history with electoral politics, how does that connect to the bigger vision, which is revolutionary movement building, Black liberation movement building? You know what I mean? For Melina Abdullah.
Right. So we know that no oppressed people have ever voted themselves into freedom, right? Electoral politics is one tool in our toolbox that I believe we have to engage in. But it's never going to be just you went to the ballot box and now we free, right? That's never happened, and that's never going to happen. I think this election, though, in 2024, is an opportunity for us to really advance our vision. The first Black woman to ever run for vice president of the United States was a woman named Charlotta Bass. And she always said, win or lose, we win by raising the issues. And so we need to think about electoral politics as a means by which we raise issues, as a means by which we expand what our vision and options are for the world, right? Where we can say, it's not about it's not about whether you want evil one or evil two. Do you want environmental degradation on steroids or environmental degradation light, right? Do you want racism on steroids or racism light, right? I don't want neither one of them evils, right?
Right,
So
right.
we have an opportunity in 2024 to lift up what it is we want rather than tinkering around the edges of fundamentally unjust systems and saying things like, well, we want police reform. No, we want police abolition, right?
Right.
So that's what we're seeing. And I'm running for vice president with Dr. Cornel West. That's what we're attempting to do, is lift up what it is we really want and challenge all of our folks to come along with us, and people who might not have even heard of these ideas. We believe that this is a big stage where we have an opportunity for everybody to come up on it and say, you might not have heard about this in this way, but public safety, for Black people, we can say, I'm gonna say my informal survey is no Black person on the face of the earth has ever felt safer because police rolled up behind us in traffic, right?
Right.
And so if that's true, then what does public safety look like? When do you feel safe? Well, I feel safe when my community is out, right? And so how do we invest in those kinds of things as Black people? And we know when Black people get free, everybody gets free.
Absolutely. We had Jill speak a little bit about her campaign. We had Claudia here speaking a little bit about her campaign. In our movement, we're promoting all third-party candidates. No matter who anyone votes for, we saying don't vote Biden, don't vote Trump, vote a third party. You know what I mean? What is your platform if you had to explain why people should vote for you and Cornel West, why y'all vision is a vision of liberation for the people. How does that platform look like?
Sure. So, I agree. Definitely don't vote for Trump or Biden, right? Why we want folks to vote for Cornel West is I think it's really important to look at what our platform is, right? Our platform is about expanding the things that we know we want to embrace real justice in those areas. So rather than saying just healthcare for all, we say healthcare justice. So what does that mean? It means healthcare for all. It means comprehensive quality healthcare for all, but it also means recognizing the apartheid that's embedded in the healthcare system. So recognizing that healthcare for all has to address Black mother mortality and Black infant mortality. It has to address the ways in which Black people are underserved and really targeted by the healthcare industry, right? As we talk about environmental justice, we have to look at the ways in which environmental degradation especially impacts Indigenous communities and Black communities. And then we have to look at the ways in which all of these justices, these demands for justice intersect. So as we're talking about land back, right? And I don't know if other campaigns, I haven't seen it, are talking about, as we talk about Indigenous rights, we're not just talking about rights for Indigenous people and land acknowledgement, but what does that mean to say some words and not say, yeah, this is stolen land and you should get that back, right? Land back, right? And engaging in that way, but understanding also that as we demand land back, we're also disrupting and working to abolish police, because land back would mean that the Muskogee land where they're trying, the Weelaunee Forest, this Muskogee land, right, where they're attempting to build Cop City in Atlanta, Georgia, right? If we do land back, that means the end to Cop City. So all of these justices intertwine. And so we're encouraging everybody to engage. We're encouraging everybody to hop on board. The last thing that I'll just say, and it's one of many things, but the last thing that I'll say here that I think distinguishes us is we've been assaulted for not having money, right? I'm going to say straight up, we don't have no money. We have no money. We are broke. We are broke, right? That's okay. Most Black people are broke. Movement is broke. Indigenous people are broke. The reason we're working class is because we're broke. We are moving from a position of recognizing we got to advance poor people and working class people. And so our campaign, we need dollars, but our campaign, I told Dr. West, let's be proud of the fact that we're broke, because the reason that we're broke is we refuse to sell out. And so I'm grateful that I have hella Southwest Rapid Rewards points, right? And so when I got to go somewhere, it's on the points, right? I'm grateful that, and I would get up and run to the other side of the room to show you something. We don't even have money to print stickers, but you know what that does is my girl Megan, who I call, one of the most brilliant young organizers. They're 26 now, but one of the most brilliant young organizers in our movement. They got them and their sister. She and her sister have a sticker maker, and she printed 5,000 stickers on her sticker maker, right? It's a way our brokenness allows us to say, this is everybody's campaign, and everybody jump in it however you can. We're not going to be able to have money to hire consultants to pay for even things like travel. We need you to do it, and we need to make it our collective campaign.
Absolutely. We speaking about this because I think a lot of people don't understand like how much this is not a democracy of the people. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. This is the democracy of the rich. It's always been. It's a dictatorship of that class. You know what I mean? This a capitalist imperialist class, that 1% that Wall Street talked about, even actually less than 1%. We was supposed to have this convention at over there on 910 East Keefe Avenue. They right before we had this, the city ended up revoking the permit And mind you, we're in Milwaukee, people, Democratic city. You know what I mean? This is a lot of black politicians, which I call neo-colonial agents. You know what I mean? That works for the system. They're professional representatives that's working for the interests of finance, capital, corporations, and stuff like this. Uh, y'all attacked the People's First Convention and try to shut that down, but you don't attack the Nazis with Donald Trump and all that. I think that says a lot about this system. Even this petitioning drive that third party candidates have to do, like over in Indiana, the Democrats and Republicans only need 4,500 signatures, but third party candidates need like 37 or 38,000. And oftentimes that means double that amount because the Democrats and Republicans can challenge it, and it gets a lot of those discredited. Um, Another contradiction I saw, because this is my first time being involved in third party electoral politics at throughout my life. But one contradiction I saw as well is that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party can challenge your petitions, but third parties can't challenge theirs. I think people need to understand how this system is rigged from the very jump for the rich to stay in power and to keep us subjugated under these duopoly, these corporate parties, which I call it for what it is. They fascist light and fascist heavy, Beavis and Butthead to me. You know what I'm saying? With Donald Trump and Joe Biden running. You know what I mean? Can you speak a little bit about that and your experience dealing with this?
Man, you're gonna have to cut me off because I'm like you. So, Brother Kwame, you and I are used to being in the streets, used to organizing, and electoral politics, while important for me, like in honor of my own mother and grandmother, like I've always voted. But that's not where I invested most of my energy, right? So my work has generally been in the streets, even though, my academic background is in political science. What I study is Black power. And, being in the streets has been the space for me. So when Dr. West asked me to come on as his running mate, I was deeply honored, but I also, even though I had an outside view of what it meant to run as a third party candidate, I wasn't prepared for the level of dirtiness, the level of the depths to which these two parties sink in trying to keep us off the ballot. And I've read everything. Like I read Ralph Nader's Crashing the Party cover to cover, right? I read that, right? But being in it shows you how dirty and corrupt and, like you said, rigged the system is. So we know that in North Carolina, where we more than qualified to be on the ballot, it's not the Republicans, it's the Democrats who are trying to block us from getting on the ballot, right? We know here in California, where it took 73,000 people to not just sign, but change their political party to the Justice for All party, that they're doing everything that they can to block us from even knowing how many people did that. But now we're getting reports that we hit the deadline, right? But we still don't know if we hit the threshold, but we're past the deadline, that everybody's now sending back their voter registration cards. And even though they registered under the Justice for All party, they have been put down as no party preference, which means that they're not going to be able to be counted as us, right? As a vote to put us on the ballot. So I've never seen anything like this. I knew about Black people from being on the stage for debates, but I just think it's so undemocratic, and I'm surprised that more people in this country aren't as outraged and livid as you and I are. And I think part of that is also mainstream media, which is in on it too, that they don't even know what's happening globally. So like a brand new, well, relatively new democracy like South Africa had 10 viable candidates on the ballot. 10 viable candidates on the ballot, right? They just had their election, right? And if they had 10 and they only became a democracy in the 90s, right? What is the justification for there only being 2, a corporate-owned duopoly in the United States? And so we have to disrupt it. And that's what this campaign is also about, disrupting the duopoly and smashing the idea that only the Democrats and Republicans should be viable candidates.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just reminds me of that quote by Malcolm X. I'm paraphrasing. This ain't about this ain't American democracy. This is all I've known is American hypocrisy. Everything that from the time I started to read books and educate myself, to experiencing this stuff with third-party candidates, it's like everything we ever was taught in our life was a lie. You know what I mean? And that's what one of the things that fuel me, that this system it's illegitimate. It's an illegitimate system. It's never spread democracy and freedom to the people. It's only spread imperialism, colonialism, oppression, genocide, plunder. You know what I'm saying? So all the ones at the bottom of the society right now, we should look at this as our time. Both of these parties are weak. You know what I'm saying? This is time for the wretched of the earth, the bottom. I like how Sherry Hunkela, she's the leader of the Poor People's Army. She says, we're not from the left, we're not from the right. We from the bottom, and we're coming for those at the top.
I love that. That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
So what I know you have a lot going on out there in California today. Do you want to speak about some of the stuff? Because Black Lives Matter grassroots has done a lot in this country. I love the fact that you're taking back the name Black Lives Matter. You know, taking it back from those. How do I? Okay. All right, I'm back on here. How does it feel to have to always struggle when corporate America, you know, in different ways tries to co-opt our movements? That's one of the things that I noticed over the years too, how they try to co-opt our movements. And a lot of times we have to take these things back from the system. Even the legacy of the Black Panther Party, like they demonized the Black Panther Party. I grew up thinking that the Black Panther Party was the black version of the Ku Klux Klan. And then I had to go to prison for 18 years to find out the truth and pick up books about the Black Panther Party, and was like, why wasn't I ever told about my real ancestors that was fighting for our freedom? You know what I mean? These are the things that we have to take in consideration when we dealing with a system that's never been in our interest for the last 400 years and never will accept none of us. Brown, Black, brown, indigenous, and working class people, we will never be accepted. And we got to get that in our mind, that this is how the system actually works. It's not abnormal. This is actually how it actually works. And once we wrap our minds around the fact that this is how it actually works, then just like in their own Declaration of Independence, it says that we, the people, can break that bond and establish new governance.
So I love that you're grounding us in work, right? We can't expect the system that is our oppressor to uplift our work or to tell the truth about our work, right? So of course they demonize the Black Panther Party, right? It's what they do, right? Of course they demonize real movement organizers and real movements. And like you said, you know, try to discredit, but also take over, right? So Black Lives Matter in 2020 was measured as the largest racial justice movement in global history. And that's a threat. That's a threat to the system. And we were saying, it wasn't even, when we came up with defund the police, it wasn't even controversial, right? It was our slick way of saying abolish the police, right? We were like, well, if you defund them, then you abolish them. And then like everybody was saying it for years before 2020. And then they got, oh, well, defunding the police actually leads us down the road to abolition, and they demonized it. But what happened in the years following 2020 is others were put into a position where they could have legal control over the movement. And what they've done is really kind of steal the movement, not kind of. They stole the dollars and platforms and good name of Black Lives Matter away from those of us who've invested our blood, sweat, and tears in very real ways. And Brother Kwame, you know how real the ways are, right? Like our lives constantly on the line, right? They stole that away from us. So the question becomes, do you fight them? Yes, we did fight them. But then if you don't win in the same system that was set up for your demise in the first place, do you just wallow in it or do you keep fighting? And so we've chosen to keep fighting. And so all week this week in Los Angeles, the 39 chapters of Black Lives Matter Grassroots gathered here. We do have a brand new Milwaukee chapter. I believe Sister Talivia Cole's spouse is actually part of the People's First convention happening right now, because she almost thought she couldn't come because she was going to be a part of with you.
Right.
But she's
Yeah.
on her way back. The whole Cole family is on their way back, and they'll be able to be with you once they get back. But 39 chapters who are committed to saying, police abolition. We have 3 new family-led chapters, which are the Cole family in Milwaukee, the Jalen Randall's family in Houston, and the family of Glenn Foster Jr. out in New Orleans, right? And some of that has also been doing work with families who've had their loved ones, we call them justice families, who've had their loved ones stolen by police violence or white supremacist violence. And remember, they came into the movement not as organizers or politicized people necessarily, although Talivia and others were already politicized, right? But most are not already politicized, right?
Right, yeah.
And getting to, okay, well, if we wanted Glenn Foster to live, we know nothing that he did, no amount of love that his mother and father, who are the most beautiful couple you've ever met, right? Sister Sabrina and Brother Glenn are a beautiful couple. They did everything they can to rear him right. Glenn Foster became a business owner and an NFL player. None of that protected him from being murdered in rural Alabama by police, right? So we got to go, well, look, this is why we got to engage in police and prison abolition, right? And move our people along with us. And we were grateful and very fortunate to do that here in Los Angeles over the last week. Yesterday was the 11-year anniversary of Black Lives Matter. And we always remind folks that Black Lives Matter grassroots is Black Lives Matter. Those other folks who spend money on million-dollar mansions and self-dealing contracts, they're just usurpers. They are thieves. They are, not of the movement. They've never been in the movement, and they like to stand on red carpets and not front lines. Our movement is about standing on front lines and fighting for the liberation of our people, and we're not going to give it up just because somebody tried to steal it.
Absolutely. Well, I always refer to you as the Sada Shakur of our generation. We appreciate the work that you do out here, staying boots on the ground. It's called Black Lives Matter Grassroots for a reason. If you ain't out here with the people, if you ain't out here standing in the trenches, if you ain't out here having sleepless nights, I think the first time I met you was like 2 years ago on my book tour. I'm driving down the streets in Los Angeles, and then I looked down the street. I was like, ain't that Black Lives Matter LA? And we pull over and I see Melina Abdullah out there. They shut down some type of Congress person's house or legislative person's house over there, surrounding it, like out there with the bullhorn, with the tents, you know what I mean? Like in the trenches for real. You know what I mean? And that was the start of me learning more about how on the ground you are with your what Black Lives Matter means to you, Black liberation means to you. So I commend you for all the work you've been doing in our community. I know you have a lot going on today and the rest of this week. But I would like to leave you with the opportunity to share your last words with all the ones that's zooming in right now, or at the People's First Convention here with us.
Sure. So thank you for that. And yeah, that was, we were in front of the home of racist city council member Kevin De Leon, who has the nerve to be running for reelection. We already beat him a little bit because there were too many opponents, but 70 something percent, 73% of, no, 77% of his district voted against him in the primary, and we know we're going to get him out in the general. And so we spent 18 days camped out in front of his house. He said movement is nothing more than 25 Black people yelling. So we decided to exactly 25 Black people showed up in front of his house and showed him what it was like to have 25 Black people yelling 24/7 in front of his house. So we did that, and we grew beyond 25 people. It wound up being hundreds, but we're going to force him out. That's what we do all the time, right? And so earlier this week, police were trying to hand out food bags in our neighborhood that we call Africa Town. We chased them out. We don't need you to think you could bribe us with a head of lettuce. We feed our own people. Get out, right? And so that's the work that we're doing. That's the work that we're seeking to elevate through this campaign. And I'll just say finally that when the decision came to run for vice president, I didn't make it on my own. Of course, I checked with my children. I'm also a single mama of 3 kids. And then I'm also a Black mama of I'm a Black daughter, right, of a Black mother. So I still asked my own mama for permission. So got my mama and my baba to get in on it. But then the third group I went to is my organizing family and organizing community. And so you all said yes, right? And so I know that this run is one opportunity for us to uplift collectively what it is we want, need, and deserve for our people. If anything, the last couple of weeks have showed us with that disaster of a debate, and I don't know about you, but I can't talk for 30 minutes without cussing. I've been trying to hold it in, but but I never ever used the word shit show in my life ever, right?
Right.
But watching that so-called debate, I'm like, oh, that's what that word means, right? It was a complete shit show, right?
Right.
And then watching this shard, I guess now they're admitting it was a shard of glass that might have grazed Donald Trump's ear, right?
Right.
And this whole thing, right? Watching this whole thing should tell us, like, if we believe in freedom for our people at all, even just a little bit, we have to absolutely disrupt this corporate duopoly. If we are fit to wear it, and I don't have it on because it's hot in LA right now, but if we're fit to wear a keffiyeh around our neck, right? Then we have to absolutely disrupt this duopoly that's sending billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to bomb babies in Palestine. And, if we look at the Pentagon budget, it's 1.3 to 1.5 trillion dollars. It's more than every other department combined, right? If we kept the dollars here, we could house everybody, feed everybody, educate everybody, provide health care for everybody. If we understand that, then we have to understand that electoral politics is important in advancing the revolution that's necessary to get us free. So finally, I'll say everybody get involved. Everybody, get involved in a campaign and vote. But more important than that, everybody get involved in a movement. And we would love to have people join BLM Grassroots, which can be followed on all social media as BLM Grassroots. But whatever it is you get down with, get down, 10 toes down, make sure that we understand what's at stake and fight for what it is we know we can have if we're all engaged in the struggle.
Absolutely. I'm gonna end everybody this with one of my favorite quotes. I say this a lot in my speeches. Franz Fanon said, "Each generation out of relative obscurity must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it. Our mission is to end this system." once and for all. In this empire, it's like the Black Panther Party, Huey and them said, we in the belly of the beast. You know what I mean? It is for our people to recognize that we have a big, significant historical role in ending this chapter of human civilization and ushering in another chapter of human civilization where we can relate to each other as human beings, free associating human beings that cares about ourselves as a species. Because I mean, we destroying the planet. You know what I mean? We might go extinct if we keep on allowing these fascists and these imperialists to keep on controlling, you know, these countries around the world, destroying everything they do. They don't even care about their own progeny. They kids 50 years from now is gonna suffer from this. They suffering right now. Like, we see how hot it is out here in a lot of cities that wasn't this hot. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is our historical mission, y'all. Black liberation ultimately must lead to human liberation. So having you on here, Melina, it's been an honor. All power to the people. Appreciate you, comrade.
Power to the people. I'll see you soon, and God willing.
Absolutely.